This is grade 8, chapter 9, part 3, linear relationships. So the key words for the beginning here, a formula. A formula is a mathematical statement that represents the relationship between specific quantities. So an example is C equals pi, so circumference equals pi times the diameter. So you can change C and you can change D. Pi is probably going to be a constant, but formula, it can have a couple different moving parts to it, but so it represents a relationship between the specific quantities. Things can change within a formula, and things can stay the same, but it's the relationship. That's what you need to know about a formula. So example 1, so graph a line from the linear formula. So sound travels at 15,000 meters per second in salt water. This expression can be expressed by the formula d, so distance, equals 15,000 times t, where d is distance and meters, and t is the time in seconds. So we're going to make a table for the values. So the very first, at 0 seconds, it's traveled 0, because 0 times 15 is 0. So 1 times 15,000 is 15,000. 2 times 15,000 is 3,000. So in 2 seconds, it's going to travel 3,000 meters. In 3 seconds, 4,500, sorry, 4 seconds, 6,000, 5 seconds, 7,500, 6 seconds, 9,000, etc., etc., etc. So is it reasonable to have points? So the speed of the sound water is a linear relationship here. As you can see, it keeps going. So is it reasonable to have a point in between here? It is, because you can have half of a second. So if you know that you can have half of a second, is it reasonable to have points between the ones in the graph? Yes, absolutely. So what is the distance sound travels in 3.5 seconds? So d equals 15,000 or 1,500 times, and we're going to plug this in, 3.5. I'm going to get my calculator to figure this all out. You should be able to figure this out at home, but it's 1,500 times 3.5. The distance it will travel is 5,250 meters. So the keywords, so the difference between an equation is a mathematical statement with two expressions that have the same value. So the two expressions that are separated by an equal sign. So this, it's got 1, it's got 1, it's got 1, and 1. So that's an equation. So an equation is an equal, where a formula is a relationship. So this has one set answer. So example 2, graph from a linear equation using integers. So using the linear equation y equals 3x plus 4, complete the following steps. So to make a table of values, use integers. -1, so we're gonna chart this out. If we start with 0, 3x, -3 times 0 plus 4, that equals 4. That's pretty easy. So if we start with 1 and we change this to 1, that's -3 plus 4 is 1. Okay. So if we erase this and we put -1 in there, -1 times -3 plus 4, well that's, sorry, -1, that's +3, because 2 negatives equal a positive. Plus 4 equals 7. So we've got 7, then 4, then 1. If we plug in 2, I think you can start to see the pattern here. But if we plug in 2, -3 times 2 plus 4 equals -6 plus 4 equals -2. So it's going down by 3 each time. So the next one will be -5, and the next one will be -8. If you plug it in, you can confirm that. But each one goes down by 3 every time. And that's what we're multiplying by, like we talked about last time. So when we graph the ordered pairs, we can see that it's a linear relationship. And each time it goes down by 3 every time. So -3 every time. So when we go back to this homework, this show you know. So again, pause this, try this, don't just listen to me. So Paula rents a lawnmower for $8 per hour. A formula representing this relationship is C equals 8T, where C is the rental cost in dollars, T is the time in hours. So make a table of values. The total, I'm not going to make a table, and I'm not going to graph, but you can do that. Is it reasonable to have points between those on the graph explained? So can you have a middle point in hours? Yes, because you can have half an hour. So you can have that. So calculate the cost to rent for 12 hours. C equals 8 times 12. The C equals 96. Because 8 times 12 is 96. So show you know. Use Y equals 2x plus 3 to answer the following. Make a table for values. Again, I'm not going to. You should at home. Graph the ordered pairs on your table of values. I'm not going to. Again, you should. What are the coordinates for the points that will lie on the x-axis? So if on the y-axis, if y equals 0, 2x plus 3, we have to fill it in. So 0 equals 2x plus 3. To do this backwards, we use BEDMAS backwards, right? So we're going to subtract 3 to both sides. So negative 3 equals 2x. We're going to divide by 2. We're going to divide by 2. X equals 1.5, negative 1.5. So that's the show you know. So determine the expression from the table of values. If we have x, let's break this down. This is where it gets tricky. We know that y goes up by what the bejesus. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, we know that y goes up by 5 every time. So as it goes up by 5, we know that it must be multiplied by 5. So it's 5 times x. Now 5x will give us 10, or 5 times 1 will give us 5 the very first time. So we have to add that. We have to add 5 plus 5 to get there. So if we add 5 plus 5, that should be our equation, because it goes up by 5 every time, and we have to add 5 to get from the first x, from x1 to y1, or wherever the first value of y is. The second one, if we follow along, 5x times, so 5 times 2 is 10, plus 5 equals 15. This is 5x, so 15 plus 5 is 20, 25, and 30. This is the formula right here. Bada bing. So let's try the next one. Use the formula 5x plus 5. So let's try the second one. It starts at x2 and it goes up by 7. It goes by 7. So the difference between each one is plus 3. Again, try this at home. Don't just watch me. This is plus 3. This is plus 3. This is plus 3. So every time it's 3. So we must be going up by 3x every time. It must be, because every time you increase by 1, you increase by 3. So 3 times x. So when we plug this in, 3 times 2 equals 6. Well, 6 does not equal 7. So we must have to add 1. Sorry, that's a 1. So 3x plus 1 should equal that. Now let's go back and double check. If we go 3 times 3 plus 1 equals, that's 9, that's 10. 10 equals 10. Okay, 4, 3 times 4, that's 12 plus 1, 13. Excellent. So the formula is 3x plus 1. So for the final one, again, please do this on your own. Don't just watch me. This is how you know you can do this. So every time it goes up by 2, so we know that it's 2x. When we have 2x and it's 9, we know that it's 18. So to get from 18 to 16, we have to minus 2. So let's go from 2x minus 2. So let's plug in right here. 2 times 10 minus 2 equals 18. 2 times 10 is 20, minus 2 is 18. So this is working out. 2 times 11 minus 2 equals 2 times 11 is 22, minus 2 is 20. So again, this formula is working out. Jumped a little bit there. So where you're going to use 2 times a minus 2. Sorry, I didn't circle what we're adding up there. So plus and plus. So the formula is 2a minus 2. That's how we find b. So the homework is found at the back. If you have any questions, please come see me. Thanks.